Hello, lovely followers. Thank you so much for being on the SupplyESChange ESG e-newsletter. Really appreciate it. I'm just off the PRI, Principles for Responsible Investment panel I spoke on business and human rights for investment. So I thought to thank you for following. I'd try to give you some sneak insights. One question that came up from the audience, which perhaps is of interest to some of you, somebody asked about using your leverage as an investor in the area of human rights and balancing that with sort of the need to manage cost and obviously business operations. And I gave a reply, and the two other investors on the panel just said unanimously supported the reply, so I thought I should share it to you. Firstly, and I'll just add a little more personal nuance here for you, which is that having worked in listed companies or companies with investors, your voice makes such a difference. In my one of the reasons I love working with ESG investors and helping train them is because back in my time working in companies, we waited for those questions that investors would ask. So whether you do that through the engagement process and stewardship and collaborations of that, or directly, or through supporting various ratings that are asking certain questions of companies and ESG ratings tools, your leverage, you have no idea what a big influence it can have on the inside. It really can. And the number of companies I've also seen over the years in my consulting time who say that, but investors don't ask us that. You can really drive change. So that's exciting. In terms of that balancing the need to deliver human rights, positive impact as a business, where do you stop? We could be here forever. You've got a business to run. I know many of you care about the ESG issues. That's why you're on the newsletter. Nevertheless, it's a real question that's been there for the past 20 years of corporate social responsibility and socially responsible investment. And in that past 20 years, some of you are aware that there's been some good research which finds that correlation between better ESG performance on material issues and ESG financial outperformance, in the medium to long run, and the data seems to be getting stronger on that front in recent years as well. But nevertheless, I think the message I left the panel with is that there's a flurry of new laws coming through that weren't there even before. Even when ESG performance meant better financial performance, now we're actually seeing the risk of not doing that S in ESG, of better business human rights due diligence, create even more risk for a business. And on another panel I spoke on last week with corporate governance and directors of companies, we talked about the fact that you're either going to sink or swim, essentially. You're either going to get with the play on doing business human rights due diligence as a business, and those that you invest in are going to do that, or they're going to be the laggards who absolutely get behind and lose their social license to operate. And in an environmental sense, keeping in mind that some of the business human rights due diligence laws ask companies to look at both the social, the human rights, and the environmental impacts because of that impact on human rights of environmental pollution, of your right to have the right to access to free, clean water, etc. Because of that side, we also see the business model side affected. So firstly, is it do you have a business model that's sustainable in the long run? I know some of you look at companies in that way. I've talked on another podcast, a couple of other podcasts about if you look at retail, then you should be moving to rental and to repair, renew business models rather than selling the same stuff and resource-intensive waste of resources. But back to the social side, once you've got that fundamental business model in play, the second aspect of social license becomes, are you staying ahead of managing the risks, the human rights risks in your global footprint, so that you can then deliver on that business model that was created. And I hope that's how some of you are analyzing companies on an ESG aspect. You're looking at the financial fundamentals, you're looking at the business model, and then you're looking at Do they have the basic fundamentals? And, the G in governance is a good example of this, that you've either got good governance going on that's going to mean that your company can continue to operate sort of reasonably and safely, or you don't. We're moving that way with human rights now. So what that governance looks like, that business human rights due diligence, those steps, that process is what, I work to train companies with, my colleagues and I, from our experience in doing that. And we love to train ESG investors to understand how you can better interpret the ratings and analysis you get on companies in terms of what do they really mean? Is it really good analysis of companies, and how is the ESG performance of companies, by looking at better understanding these new laws coming through, these new expectations for those E and S steps, those human rights steps. That's what we'll be training in upcoming courses. So stay on the mailing list. Let me know, what aspects of that might be interesting. We love sharing insights from our work in the field as well. My network across India, Cambodia, we've got insights coming through all the time. Japan and migrant workers, foreign labor. Right here in the UK, I have colleagues who are dealing with what happened in Leicester, etc. So please get in touch. Any comments below, be most grateful. Thank you so much. And thanks again for being on the mailing list and for sharing this with other people in your network. Look forward to hearing more from you, and watch this space for the upcoming course soon with any of your feedback input as well. Thanks.